Yo, what's up, nerds? It's MTG Man, and welcome to build your own precon question mark. It's been a while since I put one of these out. And yeah, we are building around a new commander. That being Niko, Light of Hope. So Niko, I said was boring, but I feel like there could be some spice to this. So when Niko enters, you create 2 shards. They're enchantments with pay 2, sacrifice them, scry 1, and then draw a card. So it's going to give you some consistent card draw. And then you can pay 2 and exile target non-legendary creature you control. Shards you control become copies of it until the beginning of the next end step, or return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, what do you do here? Well, we're going to flicker Niko as much as possible in order to be able to create a whole bunch of shard tokens, right? Then we're going to get certain creatures onto the battlefield that we want all of our shards to be copies of, to get a really wide board, and then we theoretically swing in for the game. A lot of the creatures that we want to create copies of are also pretty flickerable, so being able to flicker Niko, we could also flicker other creatures if given the option. Real quick, the budget here, it's $43.98, pretty affordable, it is in that precon range. So let's start. First up, we have Niko Eris. It's the original Niko Planeswalker. It's mostly here because it's just another way to create shard tokens. Sure, we can flicker Niko to create more shards, but shards are going to be the most important part of this deck, so just being able to get as many as possible is going to be really good. Next up is Hazda Marshal. When it and at least 2 other creatures attack, you create a 1/1 soldier with lifelink. Here's the thing, right? We make all of our shards into Marshal, then we swing with all of them, and then we basically doubled our board. I just thought that was a pretty cool whatever. Slumbering Keepguard. When an enchantment enters under your control, you scry 1. Niko creates 2 enchantments. So you just scry 2 every time you flicker. It's just going to help you consistently get whatever cards you need. You can also pump it up for each enchantment you control. So you could choose to activate this ability before you turn the shards into creatures to bump up Slumbering Keepguard. And sure, you know, you can't make the, you can't then exile Slumbering Keepguard and have the shards become it with the stat buffs, but you'll still have like a pretty big thing to swing in with. Charming Prince, mostly here because it can flicker something, you flicker Niko. Philia, flicker Niko with it. Resolute Reinforcements, it comes in, it creates a soldier. Soldiers are going to be the other token this deck creates. Valiant Veteran, right? Other soldiers you control get +1/+1. Let's say you have 10 shards, right? And then you make all 10 shards into Valiant Veteran. Now you have a board of 11 11s, right? It's just, it adds up. Priest of the Blessed Graph. At the beginning of your end step, create X/1/1 white spirit tokens with flying, where X is the number of opponents who control more lands than you. So the trigger for the shards no longer becoming creatures should go on the stack at the same time as the priest trigger. So if you have 10 shards, you'll get 10 priest triggers, and you'll create, you know, it could be 10 spirits, it could be 20 spirits, it could be 30 spirits. It can get it out of hand pretty quickly. Rosy Cotton's going to bump up your board a little bit when you have those shards enter. I just thought it was like a neat little piece. Siege Veteran, at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and whenever a non-token soldier you control dies, create a soldier. Sure, you only have so many non-token soldiers, but, I mean, if let's just say 10 shards, we're going with the 10 shard example, because I think that's pretty feasible. 10 shards, each become Siege Veteran, right? And then they put 10 +1/+1 counters among creatures you control. It's just going to bump up your board really big. Sky Strike Officer, when it attacks, you create a colorless soldier, and you can tap to create, or tap 3 soldiers to draw a card. Make all of your shards into this. If you have a board of 9 shards, we tap them all down, we draw 3 cards. It's just another option. Soul Herder. So, whenever a creature is exiled from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Soul Herder. So it's going to get big. However, it's going to lose those counters when we exile it to Niko, because, as mentioned earlier, at the beginning of your end step, you may exile another target creature you control, then return that creature to the battlefield under its owner's control. Let's say we have 10 shards. All 10 shards become Soul Herder. They'll exile Niko. Niko comes back over and over. Now you have 30 shards total. It's just a way to like exponentially increase your board size every turn. Toby, Beastie, Befriender. As long as you control 4 or more tokens, creature tokens you control have flying. Okay, so it's going to give all of your shards flying when they become creatures. And then Toby's also pretty flickerable. When he enters, you create a 4/4 that can't attack or block alone. So it's just giving you another flicker option. It's giving you a way to get in with your creature tokens. Brago, King Eternal. When he deals combat damage to a player, exile any number of non-land permanents you control, and return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control. You could exile your mana rocks so that they come back and you can re-tap them. You can exile Niko. You can exile anything with an ETB. It's just more options. Phantom General is going to give all of your shards +1/+1 when they become creatures. Or, again, you exile Phantom General. They're all going to get, what, +10/+10 if you have 10 shards. So it's just going to get you a really big board. Slither Muse, when it leaves play, choose an opponent. If that player has more cards in hand than you, draw equal the difference. So you can either, A, evoke this, right? Or you can flicker it, because it's just leaves, not dies. So if you flicker it, you'll just draw cards, and it's going to keep your hand full. Yoshin, Tactician. Other soldiers get +1/+1. The deck plays soldiers. It's just going to, even if you just have all your shards become copies of it, you'll have a big board. Mole Drifter draws cards. Not really something that you copy, but it is something you can flicker. Regal Caracal, you can flicker it, but also it's just Regal Caracal is Yoshin Tactician, but better. And it can also gain you a bunch of life on a swing. It just gives you options. Tura, Kennerful, Sky Knight. We have a lot of flicker spells in the deck, so just being able to get soldiers off them is going to be good. Wrangler of the Damned. Again, at the beginning of your end step, triggers should all go on the stack at the same time. So 10 shards means you're going to create 10 2/2 white spirits as well. It's just going to keep increasing your board size. Captain of the Watch is going to give other soldiers +1/+1 in vigilance. And then when it enters, you create 3/1/1 soldiers. So it's flickerable, just more options. Pegasus Guardian, it's a flicker spell, and then it also has an end step trigger. So you can create a board of flying 1/1s. Just going to keep giving you options. Helm of the Gods, if you choose not to make your shards do shards lose their other type when they're... It doesn't say that they lose all of their card types, but it also doesn't say that they're still enchantments. So I'm going to say they lose their card types, but if you choose not to turn your shards into creatures, you can just have a really big creature to attack with. Soul Ring for ramp, Zoria's Signet, Felwar Stone, Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Sky Diamond, Talisman of Progress. Nettlecyst is going to get really big, again, if you have a bunch of shards out. Cloud Shift, Ephemerate, Essence Flux, all flicker spells, Opt for a draw, Path to Exile for removal, Spell Pierce is a counterspell, Azorius Charm is either removal, a card draw, or you can give your creatures lifelinks so that you can just gain a bunch of life when you swing in. Faithful Mending is draw, Flicker of Fate's flicker, Portal is flicker, Long Road Home is flicker, Momentary Blink. Parting Gust is either a really strong removal spell that exiles a non-token creature and gives them a 1/1 fish, or you can use it as a flicker spell. Planner Incision, Teferi's Time Twist, both are flicker spells. Thraben Charm either destroys an enchantment, exiles any number of target players' graveyards, or deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures you control to target creature. It's just kind of solid removal across the board. Turn to Mist is flicker. Displaced flickers 2 creatures. Frantic Search is kind of draw. It doesn't make you go hand neutral, but it just helps you exchange cards. Generous Gift is removal. Splash Portal is flicker. Another round to flicker creatures. Slaughter the Strong is the only board wipe in the deck. Most of the time, you really don't care much about your board except for the shards. So, I mean, you just don't turn your shards into creatures until after you board wipe. Ethereal Armor is going to bump something up for each enchantment you control. you can kind of tell if you don't want to be attacking with your shards because you're worried about losing them. You can use Helm or Ethereal Armor or anything like that to just bump up Niko or any other creature. Witness Protection is removal. All that glitters, again, really bumps something up. Intangible Virtue is going to give all of your shards +1/+1 in Vigilance while they're creatures. Inspiring Leader is going to give your tokens +2/+2 as long as you have Niko. Touch the Spirit Realm is either a removal spell that gets rid of an artifact or creature until it leaves the battlefield, or it's a flicker spell. Starlight Spectacular, at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose creatures you control one at a time until each creature has been chosen. Each of those creatures get +1/+1 for each creature chosen before it. It's just going to make your board really big. You have 10 shards, so one's getting +10/+10, next is getting +9/+9, +8/+8. It's just going to keep going down. The only thing this deck really lacks is a way to give your things trample, but I mean, like, there's flying, there's other things you can do. Boon of the Spirit Realm, when it or another enchantment enters under your control, you put a blessing counter on it, and creatures you control get +1/+1 for each blessing counter on it. Every time you flicker Niko, your whole board's getting +2/+2. It's gonna get really big. Sphere of Safety, just protection. Your shards stop being creatures at the end of your turn, so, oh no, you can be attacked, but, creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays X for each of those creatures. If you have 10 shards, there's no way they're paying 10 to hit you with one creature, okay? They're just gonna wait for removal. Atakar Waste, Celestial Colonnade, Command Tower, Glacial Fortress, Irrigated Farmland, Islands, Plains, Port Town, Prairie Stream. Pretty simple land base. The thing about Celestial Colonnade, actually, is it's half here just because it is a white-blue hit land, but if you make it into a 4/4 creature, you could then exile it with Niko and have your whole board of shards either become, they're land creatures, so you can either tap them for more mana, or they'll be 4/4s with flying and vigilance. So you're just going to have a good way to get in and attack as long as you have at least a Celestial Colonnade on the battlefield. Let's just play a test hand here. I kind of say we keep this. We're gonna keep it. We're gonna draw for turn. We're gonna go Command Tower. We're gonna pass. We're gonna go Plains. We're gonna go Faithful Mending. I think we discard Nettle Cyst, or actually Faithful Mending. You draw 2 first. Okay, yeah. So we're gonna discard Tura, and I think Nettle Cyst. Frantic Search. So we get to draw 2, discard 2. So we're going to discard Wrangler and Helm of the Gods, and then we get to untap 3. So can't play Phantom General yet. I think we go Plains, we Soul Ring into Niko, create 2 shards. Ephemerate Niko, comes back, so we're at 4 shards. Go to turn 5, Ephemerate gets copied because of its rebound ability. So Niko flickers again, we're at 6 shards. Then I think we play an island for turn. We flicker Niko, we're at 8 shards with Plantar Incision. We play a Phantom General. So at this point, we could next turn all 6 shards into Phantom Generals. So they'll all be 2/3s that each get +6/+6. So there'll be 8 9s. And then we have Witness Protection to remove any sort of threat. I think that's basically what we would do here. We'd Witness Protection something, tap Niko, exile, swing in with a board of 8 9s. That's 48 damage unblocked. Come in this turn, play a Muldrifter, draw 2, Essence Flux, probably Niko, turn everything into Phantom Generals. Now they're 2/3s that get +8/+8, so that's 10 damage. It's a pretty nutty concept overall. Just playing a second test hand here. We go Plains, We go Island, Valiant Veteran, Plains. We could Parting Gust if we need to remove anything. Or Island, Niko, pass. So we go Soul Ring. We go Parting Gust, Flicker Niko, Teferi's Time Twist, Flicker Niko. We're at 6 shards. Don't want to play that yet. So we're at 6 shards. I think we'd play a land. We're not going to tap it. We're going to go Niko. We turn all 6 shards into Valiant Veterans. So they're all 8/8s. Wrong. They're 7/7s. We're going to swing in with a board of 7/7s. That's 32 damage unblocked. In between turns, we're going to put out Wrangler the Damned. Valiant Veteran comes back. And then on this turn, we turn all of our things into Wrangler the Damns. On our end step, we're then going to create 6 2/2 spirits with flying. And let's be real, like, the opponent really can't do shit once you have so many creature tokens. It's going to take, like a Crater Hoof or some big threat. But overall, I mean, the deck does a lot for only being $45. It could be lacking a little bit in removal. It's definitely hard to tell when you're not playing it against other decks. But yeah, I think honestly, for a budget brew, Niko Light of Hope is surprisingly solid. Next up on the channel, I'm not really sure. I started building a Victor deck. I was kind of meh on it. I was thinking about doing a video about Zimone All Questioning, because, like, look at this card. And we can look at, like, a handful of other recent cards, too. Where it's like, okay, Murmuration creates Storm Crows. Creating Storm Crows, specifically Storm Crow, that's always been, like, an unset thing, right? So, like, why is this just, like, a main set thing? So I was thinking about doing a video on cards that feel like they came out of unsets. Like Zimone talks about prime numbers. Since when? Alright, there was an unset card that's just literally, this does pi damage to something, and we're supposed to believe that's, like, unreasonable for a regular game of Magic. But Zimone wants you to know, like, prime numbers and shit. Like, I just think it's really interesting how the game has evolved. And I've done a video before talking about how certain uncards or playtest cards really could just be legal. So I might do a video on that. I might do another brew. Looking at Duskmourn, I've touched a lot of the commanders that I wanted to touch. If anybody really wants to see, like, a Valgavoth or anything like that, let me know in the comments. Or if you want, like, a precon upgrade for, Endless Punishment or anything like that, let me know. Let me know if you want different background music, because I usually just use Hip Shop because I like it. But, feedback, deck tips, all that. Like and subscribe. This has been MTG Man signing off.